my internet cut out, and
It was really good stuff.
yeah. Do you remember Jocko? Yeah, I know, right? It was awesome. It was great content, and
Yeah, it was the best stuff you never heard. That was
exactly.
the greatest private conversation with a stranger I ever had.
Right? I know. I saved the video, but there's no audio. So my hope is I put it on an external. I hope one day maybe I'll be able to hire like a lip reader. It'll be like that those World War I movies where they get lip readers because there's no audio, right? It's
Right.
in 100 years they'll be like, what were these men talking about? And it's just the dumbest conversation. It's just like, I used to get drunk, me too. And they're hoping for some profound shit. But yeah, last week internet cut out. Do you ever listen to Jocko Willink, the Navy SEAL? He's been on Rogan a couple times.
I have not, unfortunately. I'll have to look him up.
He's awesome. He's great. His whole thing is just owning all of your problems. And if there's a problem, good. You know, someone you love died, good. Get stronger. You know, you win the lottery, good. You won the lottery. No matter what, he just says good. And
That's smart.
I was so upset. He's a SEAL team commander in Ramadi. He's an amazing guy.
Yeah, those guys are made of different stuff, aren't they?
A different breed, cut from a different cloth. Not like you and me.
Let me get my. Hang on, I'm going to get some earbuds here.
Yeah. No, you're good. So
I mean, go ahead. I don't mean to interrupt you. I just gotta get.
Dude, not at all. Do whatever you want. It's So last week I was so, and I've never had the internet fully just drop like that, and I was so upset. And
So you beefed it up, did you?
I said finally after like an hour of pouting like a 4-year-old, I said, and yelling. I'm sure my neighbors heard me. Fuck. But after yelling, I said good, and I went and I got this little thing. It's called a jetpack from Verizon, and it's like you can connect it to your computer. It's absurdly expensive, but it's like 15 gigs of basically cell service, not hotspot. It's like crisp, clear cell service, and I got that. And I'm like, you know what? And when I'm having a guest on that I do not want to drop, you, an author, anyone but me and my stupid friends, flip on this puppy. So Jocko Willink, good. Now I have a backup plan. So
well, it looks like it's working.
It's working great. It better work, or I'm going to sue them. But yeah, we had an awesome conversation last week, and that's, you can't really recreate that. So I don't think we should.
No, that's all right though. We'll figure out a new thing to talk about.
Who cares? Yeah, we'll just start. So originally, when I saw, because my mom's listened to you for years. She loves you, and I always hear you talking. And
well, where does your mother live?
Downstairs, because I'm in my parents' house.
No, I mean like, where do you live?
Ocean City, Maryland.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Did she listen? She listened to the Philadelphia show or the podcast, or both, or neither?
I think Philadelphia show.
Did our show get all the way to Ocean City, Maryland?
Apparently.
Okay. Yeah, because see, I don't know that you would know this,
Yeah.
but if your mother listened, she'd know. I was on a radio show in Philadelphia for like 10 years, and then they fired me. And now I'm on another radio show in Philadelphia.
Okay.
And I have been for the last year. And I just signed, actually, you're talking to me on a good week. I just signed for another 2 years. So,
Woo!
yeah. So I was really, really lucky and blessed to be able to make the move. But after 10 years with this one station, they... yeah, that's for another show.
Yeah.
But so anyway, that ended. And then this station in Philadelphia that had no local programming, they hired me a year ago and said, we want to try to do a local morning show with you. I said, all right, let's try it. So we did a year. And then they said, let's do another 2. So we just signed the deal. And Tommy, I just launched a new show back on my old station in Kansas City this week. So I'm actually doing now a morning show in Philadelphia, my daily podcast in between, and then my daily show in Kansas City from 10 to noon Central. That's my new schedule, week number 1.
Son. Damn.
No, it's ridiculous, actually.
But that's a good problem to have, though, right?
It is.
That's a good problem.
Like the Navy SEAL said, it's good.
Good.
It's good. I can't complain.
Good. I mean, like you and I talked about, anyone that's listening to this podcast knows kind of my story. And you and I talked about last week basically how I got onto podcasting, so I'm not going to beat that into anyone's ears that's already heard it. But, yeah, it's a good problem to have, right?
It is. And, this business is it's changing. I mean, guys like you, when I was, I don't know how old you are, you told me what, 30-something? 20s?
30.
Yeah, I mean, when I was younger than that, I guess, in my early 20s, and I wanted to get into radio, you had to intern, and it had to be the radio. There was no such thing as the podcasts.
Yeah.
And now anybody can, I mean, if you're any good at it. But what you're going to find out is you're finding out, and as people find out, everybody thinks they can do this. Not everybody can do this.
I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea what I'm doing.
Well, that's okay as long as you're interesting.
Yes.
I mean, the thing is, this is true. There are people that do this and are just painfully not interesting, or they don't want to put the work in.
Yeah.
And so it's like, what I can't stand is people that don't respect it enough to put the work in. Like they do 3, 4, 5 episodes and then they get bored.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, then you don't love it.
Yeah.
You don't love it. You just did it for vanity, right?
Yeah. It's like the Charles Bukowski quote. If you're going to go all the way. Otherwise, don't start.
Yes.
There's no other reason. Like, if you're going to do it, do it.
The landscape is littered with podcasts where people thought, let's do a podcast on fill in the blank subject, and then fried themselves after 2 or 3 episodes because they got bored. It's work if you do it well.
It is work. It is, and it's like all things. It gives you a little beginner success. The first couple episodes, you're like, I'm a natural. I'm the best ever. Like, move over, Rogan. Here we go. And then you get to like the second week, and you're like, oh man, I am at the base of a mountain. And no one cares. You're like, I'm trying to build a podcast to make money. And they're working their job, paying for their screaming babies' diapers, and they're like, I don't care. And you're like, but I just want to make money. And they're like, I don't care. So, email them these people.
It's funny. Everyone's doing them. Everybody's got a podcast.
Yeah.
But only a few of them are worth a damn.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the hope, is that you're making one that's worth a damn. I don't know that I'll be helpful to that end, by the way, but thank you for having me.
You are far too self-deprecating, sir. You're a great guest. It's I think as I said last week, like I lead with like, more famous people, Mike Durant, Block Hack Down, right? I lead with that as to give it an air of validity, and this isn't just I'm some crazier person than I am, but I'm finding what you said last week, Greg. I don't know if I'm as interesting as him. And then I also got in touch with the head, Rob Manning, the chief NASA engineer for the Mars Curiosity rover, which is the one they sent over like 6 years ago. And he's going to do it. But at first, he wasn't sure, and I wasn't sure if I had to win him over. And he said, he goes, I don't think I'm as interesting as your other guests. Why do you want to talk to me? And I was like, sir, with all due respect, you drive RC cars with a range of 93 million miles, right? And he was like, all right, so he's coming on October 8th, but maybe I need to stop leading with those.
Well, it's intimidating. It's for sure intimidating because, when you're somebody that's that accomplished, you don't have to be interesting.
Yeah.
Because your resume precedes you.
Yeah.
So it's like, you don't have to be dazzling or entertaining or funny or anything else, because it's like, well, F you, man. I built a Mars rover. I don't care whether you like me or don't like me. My check cleared just the same.
Exactly. I got my picture with the president. Like, all right. But I finally talked him into it. And he's like, all right, I'll do it. So I was like, all right. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of what got me to originally email you last week is that post you made, uproar about Aunt Jemima, but cuties, it's just like, oh, stunning and brave, evolution, progress. And it's like, you have these girls who haven't learned to use a tricycle yet, and they're twerking, and everyone's like, brilliant, America.
That's right. We took a lovely matronly black woman off a pancake mix box out of a fence, and we keep 11-year-old girls dressed as strippers on movie posters. I mean, that's where we are in 2020.
And with thunderous applause. It's wow! How and it's just, I mean, what is going on? This is as loony a time as I've ever. I mean, I'm not. I'm 43. I can't say I've lived through it all, but if it gets crazier, I don't know how. I don't know.
I shudder to think how it could possibly get more lunatic than the period we're living through right now.
Well, it's got to be UFOs, but that's what it has to be. That's the only way 2020 can get crazier. Hope. Me too, man. Thank you. Most people look at
either that, I'm a Christian guy. I mean, if this is Revelations, come on, I'm ready. Bring it.
Let's go. The fire's burning. Throw the gas on. Let's hurry this thing up, right? It's 2 It's like relationships failing. You're like, just break up with me because that's where this is going. Just do it. Let's just get the heartbreak out of the way. Let me drink and cry into a bottle and sit in a tub. Let's just do it.
In all sincerity, I don't mean to be serious, but this made me think that it dovetails with COVID. I do a lot of talking about COVID on the radio show because everybody's afraid of the COVID, and I got to have this damn thing around the office.
Yeah.
And I wear it because I got it.
Yeah.
When I'm in the office, otherwise I don't.
Yeah.
But I got to do it around coworkers, and it's all rooted in fear, right? Like I feel like everybody's so afraid of getting sick, and nobody wants to get sick.
Sure.
Who wants to catch a cold or ever get sick? I don't either. I don't want to be around people that are sick. But when you wake up every day and your existence is, I'm just terrified of everything around me and I want to control everything all the time. What a miserable existence.
Absolute misery. You're right. You have to embrace it for what it is and let it liberate you. I mean, Alan Watts, the philosopher, used to say, he said, being born and living on Earth is like jumping off a cliff with a boulder. In your entire life, you're trying to hold on to this boulder. At some point, you must realize, boulder or not, you're still hitting the ground at terminal velocity. Yeah. And when you realize that, you're free. Because there's nothing... You don't have to accept death. You have to realize there's nothing you can do. Jeff Bezos, 200 billion. Hey, man, your cells are going down the same just like mine. Oxidative stress, heart disease, Alzheimer's. We're all go. Oh, you're a billionaire? Yeah, you live on this same little rock with a little bit of atmosphere revolving around a nuclear explosion. It's all just chaos. We're on a unicycle juggling flaming chainsaws.
It's true.
Yeah.
So you obsessively trying to control everything around you and others around you. I don't know why I spend the limited precious time we have doing that. Yeah. But people like these, and I do too, and we live next door to people like these. Their obsession is constantly trying to manage everything around them in the hopes that their existence will be somehow bettered by it. And it's just exhausting to me. Keyboard warriors on social media, same types of people. I don't have and maybe it's because I'm lucky enough to have a microphone, right? Maybe because I'm on 2 radio shows now every day, and I got the podcast every day. Maybe it's because I'm able to do that I can talk this way. Maybe for the frustrated person that can't get it out and feels like they got to, let it out on somebody else. Maybe it's easy for me to say, but when I go home, the last thing I care about, frankly, I hate saying it this way, is what my neighbor's up to.
Yeah, I don't.
Good for them. Sure. God bless them. Peace be upon them. But I'm not interested in giving them a hard time.
I don't care. Yeah, I don't give a shit what they're doing. God bless. Right? So, what if Bill Hicks? Do you ever listen to Bill Hicks? He's a comedian that died in '93.
I've heard of him, yeah.
Yeah, I discovered him when I was at school in Valdosta, Georgia, and I found out that he was born in Valdosta, Georgia. So, like a moron, I was like, me and Bill are somehow linked. I remember he used to say, like, what business is it of yours? And he was actually a heavily Christian guy, contrary to a lot. If you listen to him, you wouldn't know. He's a very Christian, died at 33 of pancreatic cancer, but really into psychedelics, and but he had a thing. What business is it of yours? What I put in my body, who I have sex with, what tattoos I get, or who I married? And if you're having a hard time answering it, let me answer it for you. None. So why don't you take that back? Why don't you take that check to the bank, cash it, and take a vacation the fuck out of my life? I'd love it. I'm like, yes. I don't care what you're doing, man. You want to have same-sex marriage, and you want to protect your marijuana plants with an AK that's 3D printed from Chinese parts. Go for it.
That's it.
Go for it.
That's it. Just leave me alone.
Just leave me alone. Pay your taxes and don't hurt anyone.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just leave me out of it. That's all I've ever asked.
Yeah.
And I don't, and by the way, don't expect me to embrace your thing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't, that doesn't mean I have to like what you're doing.
No.
Don't ask me to sanction it or endorse it. I'll leave you alone to do it, but don't take it the next step and demand that I now say that I like it or I'm okay with it. Like, it's okay for me to not like what you're doing too.
Yeah.
If you ask me.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know what you just did. Your audio got a little choppy there.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I flipped over to my...
You're fine.
Is this worse, or should I go back to the other thing?
Whatever you're just doing.
Go back to the other
thing? Sorry, I know you're on your 4th show today. I don't want to.
No, that's all right. Sorry, I'll just take that. How's that then?
It's 1,000 times better. Dude, it's black magic. I don't know. Some people, AirPods, it comes through crystal clear. Other times it sounds like they're talking through a pile of mud. I have no idea. But, yeah, just because you have to allow it doesn't mean you have to love it, right?
No, that's it. I'm not a puritanical guy running around scolding the world, asking for it to change for me. We are to a point where if you don't lovingly embrace everything that, in the political sense of it, it certainly is the American left. I try not to make this a super political show, but it's right now. If you dare question how someone died in a police altercation,
right?
You should burn. Your business should burn. Your dinner should be disrupted while you're sitting outside at a restaurant.
You should.
That's not sustainable. That can't work in this country.
You should be strung upside down, fed to alligators, and will sell your children into slavery.
We're not well.
No.
We got to get back to some kind of sensibility on that front, and I guess we will eventually. But
I like to think that that's a minority. I tend to not think it's a minority doing that, but I try to be positive and go, I have a lot of, I'm more conservative myself, but I have a lot of friends, siblings who are on the complete opposite side of me, but they're all level-headed people. They're just as appalled by this stuff as I am. And I tend to think that it's the media putting a microscope right on it and saying this is what everyone thinks, because that's a very powerful tool. I mean, if you control what everyone thinks is happening, right?
Oh, exactly right. Yeah, cable news has just been a cancer to the country. I watch every day when I do these shows. I watch all three cable news channels, MSNBC, Fox, and CNN. I watch them on three screens on mute every morning, and it's fascinating to watch the three of them and the story that they pick to present as the biggest story of the morning. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing, the theater that's involved, being pumped into. And, my job is to consume it all. Like, that's what I do for a living. Every day, I do nothing but consume all this stuff. So, and I'm not saying I'm special or sophisticated. I'm just saying that is my living. That's what I do. So for someone who actually has a real job and raises a family and does other things that they got to do, they got to pick one. Yeah. They've got time for maybe one and maybe 15 minutes of one of those things. Yeah. And so I watch all of that and think to myself, all right, if I'm a guy who's got 15 minutes to try to figure out what's going on in the world every day.
Good luck.
That's what we're seeing pumped into our room, our living rooms or whatever. It's pretty alarming, but that's the worldview of some people.
Yeah, not only that, and not to already be like strapping on my tinfoil hat, but I mean, Operation Mockingbird, dude, the sitting CIA director said in the late 50s, William Casey, said when the misinformation program is complete, everything the U.S. public believes will be false. Because they're embedding all other people. It started in the 50s. It's not a conspiracy. It's completely declassified papers. Operation Mockingbird. Put high-level people, put agency men or women, probably back then it was just men, into all the news stations, and just make sure you just kill the stories before they get out. I mean, the idea that hasn't progressed over the last 75 years is, I mean, yeah.
So the implication being that stories that ordinarily would be told are not getting told, or vice versa, or misinformation is being told.
Whatever it is, it's completely controlled. So, yeah, misinformation, or you don't, because the key is, and this is what William Casey said in so many words, is the key is to not outwardly suppress, because that makes people wonder, what are you suppressing, right? Pull a story. What happened when they put out the Roswell briefing and then they took it back? Everyone's like, flying disc, and even if it wasn't, we now are all convinced, or at least me, right? With this is you don't do that brings too much attention. So what you do is you embed someone in the actual business, as opposed to showing up Men in Black. You have someone that you don't know. Maybe it's me, maybe it's you're an agency man, and you work within the company. You're a competent journalist, you're an executive, and you guys are, got a meeting, your daily meeting for today's story, and you just go, I'm not feeling this one, and our numbers are saying this. So it's a very organic shutdown. Mm-hmm. So And then,
yeah, one of the great journalists, she doesn't so much talk about why or the motives behind it, other than it being political, which is probably more obvious than what you're saying. But Cheryl Atkinson is wonderful.
Yeah.
She came from CBS News for a long time, and now she does her own independent journalism. But boy, what she has come up against, I mean, the surveillance that happened while she worked at CBS News, I mean, literally her work computer at the office and at home, she'd see the mouse moving around at night and files being clicked on and things like that. I mean, he tells some. I'm actually in her first book, Stonewalled, which is an amazing book, and she's written 3 now. She's got another one coming out next month. But what she tells of the government surveillance of journalism and how internal network decisions are made and squashed about what news makes air and what doesn't, it's pretty disheartening.
It's yeah. I don't think the Fourth Estate has been alive and well for a long time.
No.
But they were brilliant. They didn't outright just go up and shoot it in the head. They went up and, they just kind of put a knife at the back of their neck.
Well, and then you wonder, and I wonder this all the time. Even, people tend to want to, at least on my political side of things, people tend to want to watch Fox and trust everything about Fox. Well, I don't know that you should or could or even can. And I watch some things and I see, we have footage of a U-Haul being emptied, in these riots. And here's somebody helping put in bulletproof vests, and here's some shields and rocks and sticks and being unloaded in this random U-Haul that was rented. And it's like, well, I don't know. How can I know? How can I know if that's real or not? Is that organic? Is that a one-off?
Yeah. Is that just as bad as some CNN shit, right? It's,
It is, only because it builds in you this suspicion that it's the same with COVID. It foments this idea that we're all sizing one another up, wondering which team we're on and if we're up to no good. And I think it builds a super paranoia in the culture that I hate for all of us.
It is just as bad, and it's easy to get sucked in because, I've said on here, I get it, right? I'm white, I'm a Nazi because I like Trump. Oh no, end of the world, right? Fuck me.
No,
sorry.
You're the worst. You're a young white guy with an American flag behind you on a
conservative,
podcast.
Born Catholic, heterosexual, white male, upper middle class who got into med school, is well educated, literate, with an American flag who swears.
You don't stand a chance.
No, man.
Quit now.
You're gonna see me on a crucifix in a cul-de-sac someday, surrounded by a bunch of Antifa people.
No, you need to go get yourself one of those Home Depot tiki torques and just charge the square.
Just take it anyway. You know what? All right, let's do it. No, man, but that being said, I can't watch Fox because I'm like, this is just, it's the cognitive dissonance of going, oh well, they like Trump, so this has to be true. I think it's just as slimy as CNN. It was like a week ago, maybe a little more. Might have been a little less. Might have been since we last talked. But I think Newt Gingrich went on Fox, and he says something about George Soros. And the host goes, we won't talk about that. And then the other lady goes, let's not mention that. And a third lady goes, I don't think we should talk about George Soros. And they all just get... dude, it looks like something from a dystopian movie. Everyone's just quiet, and there's just like the red light beeping. And Gingrich goes, so it's verboten. And they're all just smiling, and it's like, that was I sent it to some friends, and they're like, that was eerie.
Yes, I saw that clip.
Okay.
I actually saw it happen.
Okay.
And I saw them apologize the next day for it, even though they didn't apologize.
Creepy was that? How creepy was that?
Very creepy. No, it is. That's and unfortunate too. I actually know Harris Faulkner, the woman who was, in the middle of that. Mm-hmm. She came from Kansas City, where I come from. Really nice, sweet lady. But I don't know. Like, did somebody tell them that enough of that, knock it off? Maybe.
You get into that industry. I don't know. I don't think that's absurd at all. All that money. Why wouldn't someone come? And it doesn't necessarily have to be some nefarious, this is the deep state. It might just be someone with deep coffers that's going, hey, Soros donates to my thing, and I don't want you to talk about him good or bad. It could be as simple as that.
No, this business is, and I'm really, really fortunate to work where I work now. I work for Salem Media Group. And Salem, for people that maybe know who their shows are, that's Hugh Hewitt, that's Mike Gallagher, Dennis Prager, Sebastian Gorka, Larry Elder. Salem is an independently owned conservative Christian media company. I mean, that is their bailiwick, their identity. And they're very principled. They don't take booze money, for instance, or gambling money. Like they don't let it air on stations like this. And I only say all that because I came from my last company, which was called Intercom. And Intercom bought CBS, which is actually why I came to Philadelphia. I worked for CBS. Now, I'll just tell you right now, the company called Intercom is run by a radical left-wing whack job named David Field and his wife. They're lunatic left-winger.
Yeah. Your audio, I think you just muted yourself. You said lunatic left-winger, and then it bleeped. It went out.
Sorry about
there you
that.
go. You're back.
They are lunatic left-wingers, and they hate talk radio. They hate that they own talk radio stations. They would love nothing more than to be rid of talk radio. And the talk radio that they do own, they're slowly trying to convert away from the kind of talk that I do.
Okay.
So you're going to find that you're going to hear a lot of those shows doing less politics and more kind of lifestyle stuff. What's your favorite kind of breakfast meat? Bacon or sausage? Give me a call. That kind of garbage, What's your favorite old movie?
If I ever did that.
Because they so hate conservatism and the Rush Limbaugh, if you will, model of talk radio. If they can't sell it off and get rid of it, they're going to kind of force it to conform.
Destroy it, yeah.
And so when they let me go a couple years ago, it shocked me, devastated me. I didn't understand why. We were doing really well, but now with some time and distance, I was expensive, and they absolutely hated what I was doing.
Well, did you apologize for being white?
Yeah, right.
Well, you should. There's your number one step. You got to apologize, right?
But that's a long-winded way to say that, yes, corporate media ownership is a thing. It matters. And I would love to tell you that all my colleagues behind microphones are free to speak and say whatever they like. But I'm sure you already understand that's not true. I can tell you certifiably it's not true.
Blink twice if there's a rifle pointing at you. It's all free, Tommy. It's like those Vietnam guys where they were Morse coding torture on live TV. Not to make light of that, but you're just like, blinking. Just see the shadow of the gun. And I'm like, Chris, are you okay? I'm fine. I love it here.
This is what's important about podcasting, I must say, and why I got into it. I'm glad I did. When they sacked me and I didn't know what to do, somebody said, you really should have had a podcast. Uh-huh. And I was always sort of dismissive of it because I liked being on the radio. Uh-huh. But what I learned about podcasting is I will never, ever, ever be without one.
Yeah.
Because the radio is what it is. I mean, it has its place. I hope I'll have a job on the radio, but I may not. And if I don't, that's okay, because this is where it's at. This is where it's going. Not that that's a secret. And I don't ever, ever want to be beholden to speaking my piece and saying what I believe and want to an audience and worrying about whether the suits in the corner office care or not about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll do it as long as they let me, but if it becomes a problem, I just don't want to do it.
It's soul crushing. It's like a different kind of death. I mean, that's why that's why I'm doing it this way, man. Like I just can't. Yeah, I couldn't have someone say like, well, why don't we talk about like, the newest hit series this or the new Dodge Durango? And I'm like, I want to talk about aliens and potentially aliens with boob jobs. And they're like, no, let's talk about the new Miley Cyrus. And I'm like, no, aliens, like, or anything else.
What do you want to do with this podcast? Like, what do you hope to do with it? Just whatever you feel like doing? Or do you have like a thought in mind about where you want to take it?
Primary, make enough money to move out. I think that would be, to me, that is alchemy, is to make money doing what you like. I think so few people do it. And I'm finding it's easier to get into med school and go be a doctor than it is to do this.
Yes.
Make money, move out. I mean, but yeah, in the long term, as we talked about last week with mental health, there's something called MAPS, the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, and it's not, drop acid and go watch the Beatles. It's the therapeutic effect of these compounds with psychiatrists in controlled settings, walking people through this stuff. MDMA for soldiers with PTSD, LSD for breaking addiction, psilocybin for end of life, kind of terminal peace. And all these things have ibogaine for breaking heroin addiction. I mean, it has something like a 95% success rate. Where like the best like heroin programs have like a 5% success rate. It really is like the nectar of the gods growing out of the ground. But we've put it locked away since the 60s, because turn on, tune in, drop out. They didn't like that. That wasn't good for the big industry. But the guy's been on Joe Rogan before. I think Dr. Rick Doblin. I keep writing it down on my phone so I can try to get him on. I keep autocorrecting to Goblin, so now I'm remembering Goblin, the Goblin Man, Rick Doblin, and they're doing insane. And this isn't all theory. this is guys that have never touched a drug in their life, straight shooters. Marines coming back from Iraq, horrible PTSD, and they'll come back and they'll do a setting with their loved ones or their wife or their ex-wife or then friends that fought with them, and they do this one. It's like a day-long session. You're on MDMA. Just call it what it is, high as a kite. But you go in there, and in those sort of expanded consciousness realms, you can undo a lot of damage or deal with it. Timothy Leary, the turn on, tune in, drop out guy, Harvard psychiatrist in the 60s, the first time he did mushrooms in Mexico with Richard Alpert, it's called Tia Nalactica, Flesh of the Gods. That was the one they did. These guys were Harvard psychiatrists, and when they came out of it, they noted in their book, 7 hours of this taught them more than 27 years of therapy. So to answer your question, I would like to use the platform to bring more. It's helped. I've done it 4 times in my life. It's helped with me. I want to bring awareness to it, and I'd also like to just do the Elon Musk route. The government's not going to get us tomorrow, so I'm going to stack my billions and get us there. I kind of want to get a massive lump sum of money, fund that, and before I die, know that I left the world better than I found it.
So can you give me a really, really dumb guy version of what you just said? The therapeutic
benefits of psychedelics vastly outweighs anything in existence and on the next century horizon of pharmacological results.
But not that we would be perpetually on psychedelic drugs.
No. Hey, one of these things, once, for addictions, you do it once. For trauma, once a year.
And so while under the influence of the drug, you can
go in and you can quote do work. You can go in and
rewire your brain.
It'd be like, what's the way to put it? It'd be like, what if you could only clean your house when it was underwater? Well, if one day a year you could just put on a scuba suit, go down there, you could put away all the dishes, do all the laundry, nail in the stuff, change the lights, and come back up. It's going to build up again, but not probably for another year. You can come back up and you just have to sit up here. You don't have to be underwater. So you can do work in that realm.
So that's okay. So this is no. I just conceptually, it's a broad concept.
Yeah.
You is it anything like it? I don't mean to dismiss it and make it sound minimal, but is it anything like hypnosis? In the concept of if your behavior is such, you can be hypnotized out of it or fixed out of it somehow.
No, it's they show through fMRIs, functional MRIs, where they look at your brain on a live feed and they tell you to listen to music and they see that part of the brain light up or whatever. With fMRIs and psilocybin magic mushrooms, it's called global connectivity, and there's a way that the brain rewires itself and connects with itself in ways that you can't do under any other circumstance.
So this is not behavioral. We're not talking about behaviors like
there's a physical effect, and in that effect you go in, and what I imagine with my limited mind is you make a behavioral change, but the problem is getting to that unlocked area.
Like an alcoholic, in theory, under psychotropic drugs would be able to cure his alcoholism?
LSD was originally the last step of the AA program, but it was taken out.
Really?
That's right, and then they replaced it with what? Higher power. What was the higher power? It was an actual higher power. Yeah, I did it 4 times in my life, all after my brother passed. Once before, and that's when I realized I didn't want to go to med school, and that was something that had been bubbling for 3 years, and then I took it and was just, I don't want to do this. In each of the 3 years immediately after my brother's suicide in 2014, I did it, and that helped me work more through everything else. And the last time was when I realized I was like, I'm going perpetually downhill. I need to move home because I feel that I am at a threat of suicide myself. It's a level of clarity that.
And when you say did it, you mean you take the drug, you ingest it, and then are people physically working with you, or you're just in this state?
Oh, I did it myself because all this, it's all highly illegal. It's more illegal than heroin. It's Schedule
So
One drug.
what happens while you're high? And
You know, what is the sound of one hand clapping? It's you.
you mean you just float around high, and then when you come
No.
out of it, you
don't-
sober up?
you
You're
don't see it- you don't
cured
s-
of whatever's ailing you. Is what you're saying? Or
Nope. And that's the misconception, is that you just take it and it changes things, like an antibiotic or something. You can take it all you want. If you don't go into it and sort of face the demons, nothing's gonna happen. If you want to take it and just go watch a concert, that's fine. Probably have a good time. I've never done that. You can.
are you saying now? This is This is a broad concept. I didn't see this coming.
Oh,
You can be conscious and unconscious simultaneously. You're consciously going into a state of almost unconsciousness.
not unconsciousness. It's.
Well, you don't have your faculties in your traditional sense.
No.
So-
You wouldn't want to be driving. You wouldn't want to. I've always done it. The first time I did it was with a friend. Every other time after that, I did it alone. I set the whole day out for it, and it's and there are much more scientific ways to do that. Right now, currently in 2020 going on, are the Harvard and Johns Hopkins psilocybin studies. They're doing this. It's So to answer your question, what do I want to do with this podcast? Primarily, I want to make money and move out and kind of live my life. I want to talk to people. I love talking to people.
Sure.
But long term, what is the big, where do I find the fulfillment in it all? Because you can just make money, but ultimately, if you're just making money, at some point it gets old.
Right.
As someone that did get into medical school and was wildly interested in this, I view it as I think we will look back at now just like we look back pre-Joseph Lister, before, germ theory. When they would cut open one person, doctor would take the knife, wipe it off on his forearm, get the next person, and, maybe spit on it, clean it off. All right. And then we wonder, how come they're all dying from, because we didn't know what infections were. I think we're going to, I don't get it. We covered him with leeches and we said a prayer and drew a chalk pentagram around him. He's still sick. Well, it might be the tumor, right?
We all wore a mask and we still got COVID.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think we're going to be looking back at mental health. And I think what we have right now, Zoloft, Wellbutrin, Prozac, all those, I think they're the right step. They're like, it's the right step. It's like dipping the knife in water, but what we're learning is that you got to sanitize it entirely. Not saying you have to sanitize your mind, but just that jump in an era. I think.
What is different then fundamentally between, and could you get addicted to that behavior? Because you and I talked about our struggles with alcohol. Why then couldn't I get just as easily hooked? And I've often thought about, if I've never done harder drugs than alcohol.
Sure.
But if I ever did, I always thought to myself, oh, I bet I'd love them.
Yeah,
I bet I'd love cocaine if I tried it. I always thought that.
I'm afraid of those. I've never done it because I think I would love it. I think
that's
I would.
my thing, and so that's my question. Then how is that not maybe in a problematic way for some people?
Oh, it definitely is. I mean, they are not chemically dependent. Not like caffeine, where you don't have your coffee and within 2 hours you got a migraine, you hate everybody, and you're like, just shut up, like that, or alcohol withdrawal, shaking. There's no physical dependence.
Okay.
Now, do you get dependent on the feeling? No less than you'd get dependent on sex or a cheeseburger or not getting out of bed. So where do you come into that problem? Self-discipline,
Interesting.
We're free to go buy hamburgers. They're not illegal, It's Not yet. If you get fat, it's on you. You can't sue them. So yeah, would you get addicted to this state? I think you could easily. But I mean, it's just, what are you going in for? Are you going in for a good time, or are you going in to get rid of this pain that's eating your mind alive? Sexual trauma growing up, addiction, losing a sibling. Again, anyone listening might be like, how the hell does this podcast have anything to do with that? Elon is using the profits from Tesla to go to Mars. Tesla has nothing to do with Mars. It's the profits. What I want to do is build this into a platform, and I want to get money from it and ultimately use that to sort of hand it off to someone much smarter than I, actual pharmacologists, anesthesiologists, people that design this stuff. Give them the money to do the funding, where all the doctors are. I don't want to do it. I'm too stupid.
That's amazing. That's a hell of a goal.
It's an insane goal.
And it's a multifaceted goal. That's most people don't have a multi-tiered, multi-dimensional goal like that. That's really impressive.
And it sounds great, and it's it's going to make me sound like a much better person than I am. To me, it's more so like I have found, and I know we're going way over. I told you I'd let you go at 30.
That's all right.
Is what I've found is that as much as I love achieving a goal, there's really nothing better than working towards the goal. Because when you achieve it, you're kind of empty, right?
Yeah.
So, like this podcast, this is episode 196. To date, it has made a whopping $9 from Anchor. So shout out, got those pennies, get at me. But to this date, yeah, it hasn't made. So what will be the big thing? It'll make money and I'll move out of my parents' house, right? I'm 30 years old and I'm above their garage right now. So I get my own apartment and, wow, what if I get a girlfriend? And then what's the next step after that? Maybe I get a sick ride. What if eventually you could scale it all the way up to a Joe Rogan, 100 million, I got a Ferrari. But at some point, you got the thing and then it's just empty. So to me, I'm choosing to really kind of cause a renaissance in mental health. It's just crazy enough that it might be able to be done, but in all likelihood I won't see it before I die, so I'll always be able to work towards this one goal and never beat it.
That's lovely. I love it.
Thanks.
I wish I had something that big to think about. I don't. I mean, it makes me now consider I ought to find something bigger to think about.
But
because I really don't. I don't have something that big I think about.
Well,
I don't imagine achieving something.
Yeah.
That's,
well, to me, it's not some like I'm going to do this great thing. I look at losing a sibling to suicide and just the inexplicable feeling of pain on my family and myself,
yes.
And how now 6.5 years later, I feel like I'm just now, it's almost like one of those like big punching bags. You knock it over and it wobbles and it comes back up. It's been 6.5 years and I'm just now like, all right, I got it. It's like Rocky, like I didn't hear no bell, right? That's how I feel. But for the last 6.5 years, I've been like, kill me now.
Yeah.
So it's not that it's coming from some idyllic, I want to make the world better. It's more so like, it's something I'm very passionate about. And I don't want as few people as possible to experience that. If it hadn't happened to me, I'll be honest, I probably wouldn't give a shit. My goal would be, I want to make money, right? I want a gold Ferrari. But because of this, it's like, it's, whenever we, go rent a lake house, I remember growing up, my dad would always be like, leave it better than you found it. Like, clean your rooms, like, do or I'm going to crack you. It's leave it better than you found it. And to me, it's like, no matter what happens in this world, God or no God, afterlife or not, whether we create a good society or we burn it all down screaming, I hate Trump, or send nuclear weapons, whatever the answer is, like, in my little corner of the world, like, I can't create utopia. I can't give drinking water to everyone. I can't get us to a different planet, like, I don't have socks on right now, but I have shoes. Like, I'm hanging in there. I got duct tape on my brain. It's but I do have that one little circle. I feel like I'm, with my own experiences and losing someone, with my own experiences, having somewhat of a grasp of biology. Didn't go to medical school, but got in. And my own experiences with depression, and then also seeing how much these things helped me in just 4 afternoons in my whole life. I feel like I gotta try to put the pieces together and at least make that an option for like future generations, right? I feel like that's like an obligation of mine. It's, again, sounds great, sounds romantic and idyllic.
No, look, it's something bigger than yourself, and that's always good. When you're able to look outside yourself and you want to put your energies into something that's bigger than yourself, I think that we should all want for that. That's probably the problem for most of us, is that we're all far too self-involved.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a goal that's beyond your own enrichment. Yeah. I think that's wonderful. That's remarkable.
Thank you. I mean, there's still a lot of ego in it. There's like, I want my podcast to get big. I want to make money so I can buy a 8K TV to play video games on. Like, there's still a lot of like shitty ego. Like, I'm gonna do it just so everyone can say that they can't say I didn't do it. But I look at that as like, I want it to be, because if I can do something like that, even if it's just push the domino in the direction, to me, my brother's suicide won't be in vain. It'll be like, okay, it was for something, right? It's something happened. Someone, it's, you can't watch America fall out of censorship, because then it's like, what about all those guys that stormed Omaha Beach on D-Day, right? And it's like, what? So is that for nothing, right? And it's, So you got, speaking of free speech, that's why I wear my Winnie the Pooh shirt now. So it's a shout out to Xi Jinping because they banned it in China. So it's just the little things, right? My great uncle stormed the beaches of Omaha. I've got a Winnie the Pooh shirt on. Pick your battles. I'll take down the CCP and do mental health, right? But yet you got to choose your little corner and make it a little better, right? That's it. So for you, man, it would be whatever. It would be, you just choose whatever is important to you and just try to get that better, just a little bit.
Well, most of my young life I have spent doing nothing but pursuing my career, and I felt at a pretty high level. I wouldn't say I got to the pinnacle of where I wanted to be, but pretty darn close. And I'm content with that. But when it's here's what's challenging, and here's what I have found. Men do this particularly. You identify with your work. You identify with what you do. It's all consuming. It's your identity. Yeah. It's who you are. When you walk into a room, what do you do? And it's like that's the thing you wear on the name tag.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Chris. I host a radio show.
Yeah.
It's taken me years and many fits and starts in this business to learn that that's not who I am.
Yeah.
And for me, it's my Christian faith that I've worked a lot on in the last several years to realize that this is so fallible and so short-lived and can be taken from me, and it's fickle, and clients come and go and listeners come and go, and maybe I'll lose my voice someday, God forbid, or maybe I'll get sick, or I don't know. I had for so long my entire identity wrapped up in the fact that I was a radio personality, and then when that's taken from you and you don't have that anymore, you talk about depression, you talk about slipping, and when I was really drinking, I stopped drinking just before I got blown out of my old gig. And had I not, now for me, I believe it's spiritual. I believe I had a genuine Christian intervention. Mm-hmm. I believe Christ came into my heart and said, it's time to fix yourself. And I think I did so. And I think I did it in just the nick of time, or I'm not kidding. I think I might be dead.
Yeah.
And not from suicide, but just from the fact I drank at that clip. And I was about to head into a really miserable period. On the other side of it, I've come out thinking to myself, well, it's not all that damned important. I still love doing this. I'm privileged and blessed that I get to do it. But if you told me I can't do it tomorrow, it's not the end of the world. It's not who I am anymore. I'm a father, and I'm a husband, and I'm a friend and a son, and I'd like to just be a better person and listener in general. And I feel like that's what I'm working toward, I guess.
Yeah, but you're right. It's almost like I think it's from the Bible. It might be Christ, but I'm not in this world, or I'm not of this world. I'm in this world. That might have been Buddha.
Well, yeah, it's a wonderful. I forget be in it, but not of it. Yeah. I love it. I heard a pastor say that recently. Be in it, not of it. I've been trying to sort through as I talk about this just kind of dark, awful place the country seems to find itself in. How not to get mired in it, and caught up in it, and identify with it, and be in it, participate in it in terms of the dialogue, and have your say about it, but don't be of it. Don't let it consume you, and don't let it be your identity.
No.
I don't want this to be. Well, it's like I said, trying to control everything around you, thinking about nothing but COVID and are people behaving, and the riots in the streets and cable news. I go radio silent on my weekends now. I completely detach from all of it. I ignore it all like the world's not even happening.
You got it.
For 2 solid days. And I'm about to go to it. In fact, that's what I'm going to do right after this, is completely unplug.
Hell yeah.
And if I didn't, I don't, and if I didn't and I was drinking the way I was, Tommy, I honest to God, I don't think I'd be alive right now. I really don't.
Dude, I don't think if I had, come home, I don't think I'd be alive, man. Suicide or just, whatever the hell I was doing. Look, man, it's mental health. I mean, I meditate every morning. It's, I grew up, I went to a private Catholic school for 12 years, kind of became an atheist from like 18 to probably like 26. Mm-hmm. Those psychedelic experience, they kind of open back up the door to where you're like, this is what you feel in there is, that is God, the overwhelming love, and not high, like drunk, I love you guys. Just the clear-headed, you're like, wow, I have running water, my parents are alive, I have my limbs. It's just love. And then reading, I had him on last week or 2 weeks ago, Dr. Eben Alexander, who wrote the book Proof of Heaven, Harvard neurosurgeon who fell into a coma in 2010, down for 7 days, 1 in 10 million chance of living, and he lived, but he has perfect recollection of. He said his recollection of that is better than any recollection of his real life, and he describes going to heaven, like the stages of heaven, and
amazing.
That sounds exactly like deep meditation as well as psychedelic experience. So, point of me wrapping around all of this is like, I have had those experiences that I can't explain to anyone, that I can't possibly justify or prove to anyone, but I've seen them, and it's like it has really confirmed, like, I think this is just, I don't think this is all there is. I think this is a very temporary, I think we're putting on the mask, and we're, the old, it's like I think it's like a Hindu idea called Leela. They call life Leela, which means the play. Right now, we've all got our masks on, and no one breaks character. No one, because you got to, it's role play. No one breaks character. Not Bin Laden, not Hitler, not Gandhi, not Jesus. No one breaks character. But when you die, you go into the green room, and everyone takes their mask off, and they're like, great performance, dude. And why are we doing that? We're playing. And I really do think that we're playing and or we're learning. And that right now, as real as it is, as real as the pain of losing a sibling, as real as, the realization that Christ comes in your heart and you need to stop drinking or I'm not going to be alive. As real as those are, it's like a very scary movie. It's real, but, every once in a while you feel the movie theater seats and you're like, I'm in a movie. Get sucked in, get crazy. It's an experience, right? But then you gotta go to the bathroom because you drank a massive Diet Coke, and you're out there and it's just elevator music and the old lady checking tickets, and you're like, oh, I'm not actually getting haunted by some 16th century witch. And then you go back in and you get the shit scared out of you. But why? It's because it's a game, or whatever. You're learning.
It's funny how much of it you think you control. You can convince yourself that if only I do X, Y, or Z, I'll be able to control
just around the corner,
this particular outcome or that.
Just around the corner, you almost got it. It's just right there.
If only I can do this. I mean, I've worked. If there's anything I've worked harder on in the last year, it's to stop saying the equation. If only I X, then Y will happen.
One more. If I can just. That's a Richard Alpert Ram Dass, who died last year. He was Timothy Leary's friend. He was one of the Harvard psychiatrists that got fired for doing the LSD experiments. Changed his name. He was like a hustler. He was saving money. He had his own private plane. Sleeping with women. It's all about who's like rubbing shoulders with who. It really was just the rat race. And then one day he took psilocybin, and changed his life. And he got fired from Harvard, quit his job, grew his hair out, went to the Himalayas, and like worked with like gurus for like 10 years. Changed his name to Ram Dass, and ended up putting the rest of his life towards like he wasn't a doctor, but put the rest of his life towards getting cheap not cure blind. What is it when cataracts, like laser surgery, cataract removal?
Yeah, LASIK is not cataracts. But
it wasn't. It was before that. It was some surgical thing you could do and basically greatly increase someone's vision. But he did something like gave back vision to 2.3 million farmers in India, poorest of the poor, because he was just like, I need to do something. This is a guy that had private plane. You can see pictures of him at Harvard. He's got the tumbler of whiskey with the hot secretary. He's got his like Mercedes Benz, and he's just cigar, just balling out, right?
Yeah.
And he went and because he did psilocybin, and he just went and walked amongst the earth and was like, I just need to change everything for the better. And he still had his flaws. I don't remember where I was going with that, but that's one thing he always talks about. Doesn't it seem like it's just when I'll be happy if I can just, it's always just right there. And he's like, and let me tell you, this is last year or 2 years ago. He's like, let me tell you, 91 years old. It's not around the corner. It ain't there. No. Because if it's not now, baby, that's his quote. If it ain't now, baby, when is it? He's just, it's not, by all means, plan for the future, but in quotations, it's not there. It's not there.
Yeah, and the number of times you've worried about outcomes, and it's like, the outcome is coming. It's coming. Like, there's no tweaking the outcome. It's just coming.
Yeah, it's just around. It's
like if you just allow an outcome to happen, that's the piece of my faith is trying to again, not being reckless and irresponsible, but the piece to understand that it's just gonna come, and you can do your best, but sitting around lamenting it and worrying about it, hoping you can control it through worry. I mean, that's scriptural, and worrying about it. You can't control it.
Yeah, no.
And boy, it's freeing if you can really buy in, if you really earnestly believe, I don't control this, but I believe the best is coming. It's very freeing, but boy, is it hard, which is why we all drink.
Well, then you have psychos like you and me who try not to drink and still try to ride the wave of this insanity.
Oh man. Honest to God, that's all. It's the only reason I drank as hard as I did. I really couldn't stand the reality.
Gets rid of the
of
anxieties.
life generally, and socially awkward and all of those things. So I just pounded myself into oblivion, so I didn't have to deal with it.
Yep, anxiety's gone, fear's gone. Yeah. Okay with everybody. It's
right.
Yeah. Hey man, and like we said before, and it's not some idyllic. And I freed myself of that demon. Dude, I work at a liquor store. Every day I'm there, I'm like, man, I'd love to pound this bottle and go drink it with my friends screaming and fuck it all, burn down the city tonight. No, but I'm going to wake up tomorrow and feel 10 times worse.
Man, I am so proud of you for being 30 and doing it. I didn't achieve it until 2019. So what was that, just a year, 2 years ago? Not quite, a year and a half ago. So I was in my 40s. So I feel like I drank hard through all my 30s.
Yeah.
I envy you for sparing yourself the 30s.
Hey, man, it's who cares?
I had a damn good run in my 30s. I had a lot of fun.
I had a good time. For like 4 years. I had a good time, but I was burning that thing at both ends. We're at 56 minutes. Can I keep you to a clean 60 and then we'll cut it off?
Happily, sure.
3.5 more minutes. But yeah, it's that mind, and that's why I meditate every day. Is I would say I went from like hardcore Catholic growing up to hardcore atheist to right now. I think I'm at like an optimistic agnostic. I think that's how I would describe myself. I think, I would like to think I'm a scientist in the loosest form of the term, having, a biology degree, like at least know how to kind of look at data. Like I did undergraduate research in toxicology, and some general ideas. I think the idea of saying definitively that there is no God or no afterlife is just as absurd of the definitiveness of saying you know exactly what's going to happen. So I choose to go, it's going to be one or the other, with meditative experiences, with psychedelic experiences, and then talking to Eben Alexander, the Harvard neurosurgeon, who's not a moron like me, and have him say it with just complete certainty. Just, it's a matter of fact. It's a statement of fact. Meditating on those ideas every morning, if I don't meditate, I get caught in it, or I get caught being of it, not in it. When I meditate, it's almost like meditating is like the bathroom break with the Diet Coke. I'm like, it's just life. Maybe it's thermonuclear war today. Maybe I meet my wife. Maybe I find $1. It's one or the other, right? But it's just, I step out of it and I go, this is just a game. We're just playing. It's real. Be nice. Be loving. But come on, it's you can't win. You can't hear me? Can't hear me? I can hear you now. There you go.
I lost that last bit. I wanted to tell you, because the minute you described yourself, I did one of my favorite interviews of this year with someone that I think you should try to have on if you can, or at least read him. Michael Schellenberger,
okay.
Schellenberger, Michael Schellenberger. Okay. His latest book is called Apocalypse Never.
Okay.
And it was the greatest interview I ever did with a guy out of, I think, Southern California, Berkeley maybe, he came up in a home. His dad was a preacher, and then he went to college and became, much like you, hardcore atheist, hardcore into science and environmental science, and now is finding his way back. Mm-hmm. He bought in so hard on environmental science that it became almost, in its own way,
a religion,
frightening or cultish to him.
Yeah.
And so now he's pivoting back. We had this wonderful conversation about his book where he actually writes about this, the environment and his relationship with his faith, and I think you'd love it.
I would absolutely love it. I will. We're at 59 minutes. I won't keep you over. We should.
Well, it was an honor to be invited. Honestly, I don't know why you thought of me, but thank you for asking me.
Hey, dude, you're a badass guest. Thanks for coming on, man. Some people are so buttoned up. I'm like, dude, just let it. We're talking about UFOs. I'm wearing a Winnie the Pooh shirt. Like, relax. Like, come on now. Like, remember, this is just a game. It's just relaxing. So, what's today's date? The 25th, September 25th. So hopefully in the future we can look back at this date and be like, yeah, things started to get better around then.
This is the day. Someday I'll be able to hear about people going through some sort of psychological therapeutics and think, I was part of that, episode 196 or whatever you said I was.
Yeah,
what episode?
Yeah, you are.
All right.
Yeah, or you're gonna be like, man killed wearing Winnie the Pooh shirt by Chinese nationalists, and there's just gonna be a picture of me on the headlines, bleeding from the head at work. There was just a drive-by from some guys wearing the CCP flag. Either or, man, it's gonna be in the news.
Well, good luck to you, man. Sincerely, good luck.
Thanks.
I wish you all the very best. You seem like a very, very kind guy and a nice guy with a great heart. So thank you for your time. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you. And yeah, man, if you ever need to get away from the serious shows and want to come on here and just let your hair down, doors open. You got my number, my email. Thank you, sir.
God bless you.
You too.
See you, Tommy.
Bye-bye. Stay safe. Have a good weekend.